a joint meeting with the Eastpointe Board of Education. This is a joint special meeting that we do once a year to find out what's going on in our schools and for the schools to find out what's going on in the city. So today, for the record, is Wednesday, February the 20th, and it is 6:35, and we are meeting in the Eastpointe City Hall. So Mr. Sabota is our city manager, if you've not met him. This is Joseph Sabota, and he will be calling the roll for the city council.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
Lucido.
Here.
Kleinfeld.
Here.
Owens.
Here.
Pixley.
Here. And Randy?
I'd like to call to order the Board of Education section of this joint meeting with the City of Eastpointe on February 20th at 6:35. Dr. Early, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Grunberg is excused. Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
Mr. Roscoe.
Here.
Dr. Early. And Mr. Vita excused.
And if you would all rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And what we'd like to do next is to go around and introduce people. So if we go left to right, and if you would say what your title is on the individual board or council.
Ladies first.
I'm Suzanne Pixley, and I'm the mayor.
I am Randy Wilson. I am the Vice President of the School Board.
Sarah Lucido, City Councilwoman.
Cardi DeMonico, City Councilman.
Councilwoman Monique Owens.
Treasurer Dr. Geneva Early, School Board.
Robert Russell, Eastpointe Trustee, School Board.
Edward Williams, School Board Trustee.
Keith Ward, School Board Trustee.
Mike Kleinfeld, Mayor Pro Tem.
Ryan McLeod, I'm the Superintendent of Eastpointe Community Schools.
Richard Albright, Assistant City Attorney.
Joseph Sabota, City Manager, City Clerk.
So our next item would be to approve the agenda as presented, and one down below is the agenda from the Eastpointe City Council. These are items that have been reviewed between the administrator as well as the superintendent of schools, and we will be addressing these tonight. So I would ask for approval of the agenda by the city council. So I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Support.
And Mr. Sabota, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Lucido.
Yes.
Owens.
Yes.
Pixley.
Here. Yes.
Also, we have a agenda set up before us. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support?
Support. Read.
Call the roll.
Mr. Williams.
How about
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
And Dr. Early says yes.
And our next item is the hearing of the public, and I see that we have a large amount of the public here. So there is a microphone over here, and we would like you to go forward, and we would give you 3 minutes. So if anyone would wish to be heard, please go to the microphone. State your name. I knew you would be.
How could I be here with not? Lincoln Stocks, president of the Eastpointe Federation of Educators. Good evening, Mayor Pixley, Superintendent McLeod, Board of Education, and City Council. I wanted to take a second just to make some of you all aware that are not part of our school community on a regular basis that a icon of Eastpointe, East Detroit, Ron Kramer, had one of his records broken last night at East Detroit's basketball game. Senior Jesse Judkins surpassed his I guess we call cumulative total, his career record number of points in basketball. It's a long time, more than 50, 60 years since Ron broke that
1953.
record. Yep, and so we're celebrating Jesse and his accomplishments at the high school today, this week, and this season has been really a tremendous turnaround for our athletic programs, and that bodes well for our community as well as our school district in recruiting and retaining some of our kids. So we're excited about that. And the last thing I wanted to bring to your attention, my organization, the Eastpointe Federation of Educators, jointly with the Roseville Federation of Teachers, have purchased, as of tomorrow at about noon, a vacant building in Eastpointe. You're familiar with the old East Detroit Chiropractic Clinic property on 10 Mile Road near Hayes, which we will open as a Macomb County Federation of Educators joint union office and teacher training facility. And so we're very happy to move into Eastpointe to be able to not only bring educators from around the county to there as a sort of a brain trust office space, but also to provide a place right here in our community where teachers from all over Macomb County can come, be trained by both union and other professional services. And we thought this was a great place to be. Instead of having folks come downtown, they could come right here in the district. We hope to expand that to many different opportunities for political and social action and activity, as well as our training. So we're happy to be a continuing and now increased presence in Eastpointe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Thomas Griffin. I own a business in Roseville. I was invited down here by the Chamber of Commerce meeting yesterday, and I'd like to talk to the school contacts in order to do fundraisers and double their money. I do a lot of work in Roseville and St. Clair Shores, and I'd like to advance my techniques down in this city to help raise money. I've been doing this business for 40 years, and I know what I'm doing. So anybody can give me some leads, or this young lady I talked to yesterday morning, so I'd appreciate any kind of conversation from anybody after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll close that hearing of the public. We thought that we could review some of the topics that, kind of goals that we set at the last meeting, which was January 29th of 18. So our first topic, of course, is always Memorial Park. I did want to address, I did check with Tony Lipinski before I came today, and the scoreboard that we wanted, we did get. One of the teachers, it was a joint project, one of the teachers found one. We went up on an auction and bid on the auction through Rare, and then Rare picked it up and brought it down, and it's in its place. The other thing that we wanted to do was the sound system, and sadly, there was a lot of discussion last year that the Tiger Cats always sounded better than the high school did. Well, that's the reason, is because the Tiger Cats bring in their own sound system. So the sound system is one of the things that we're working on still. I know that you've been using your own, or the one that's currently there, and it definitely needs improvement. And the other thing was the DARE program that I wanted to talk just briefly about, because it was brought up over and over. It used to be a federal program where grants came in to the schools to work with the police department, and the program was no longer funding. The federal funding stopped in 1998 because they were getting poor responses, and it's been checked recently. The program was in place from 93 to 98, but it started off to train students to recognize the problems with drug abuse, and the initials actually stand for Drug Abuse Resistance Education. So they've gone back and tested it with a new generation since that time, and they keep coming up with the same results that actually has led to more involvement with drugs than reducing the amount of drugs. So I followed up on it just because it was on our list. The sale of the 8 Mile Community Center was completed, so we no longer have the availability of using that community center. And then Sarah can give you the update on the Deerfield property, or Mr. McLeod, but the
You want to start?
Planning
Yeah, you
Commission.
can.
So I spoke with our attorney that's handling the sale, and it sounds as if the challenge has basically been, we've had basically a contingent purchase of the property. Essentially, they wanted to make sure in the purchase that they are able to do with the property what they'd like to do. They have really raved about how cooperative the city has been with their various plans. But the other side of it is getting the federal funding to make that happen. And so there was one window they missed for that, or it did not, was not ready to go at that point. Right now, our current purchase agreement requires that we basically sell it this year, or else it will come back to the district.
So Sarah would give you the update because it just came up to the Planning Commission.
Yes, so the planning commission, they just came forward to the planning commission asking for another year extension so they can apply for the federal funding again. They explained to us that last year, the government, I believe, gave out for 3 different projects, and they came in number 4th on this rating scale. So they went back, looked at their plan, reevaluated their plan, changed it to help try to score more points so they could score higher. So they're really feeling confident they're going to be able to get the funding this year.
And Sarah, maybe you could explain also to the board what we're doing with the Parks Commission?
Yes, well, so we've been definitely the number one, we started our Parks Commission, our number 1 focus is the building at Memorial. Right now, we have set up to meet with someone from the school and with someone from the Tiger Cats, so we can find out what their needs are with that building. Because before we decide to put money in or re-renovate the building, we want to know what the high school is using the building for, what parts of the building they're using, what their needs are, and along with the Tiger Cats, because you guys are the 2 main people that utilize the building, with the exception of the bathrooms that are open to the public, which actually are not in bad condition. So that's where we're at right now. We're hoping within the next month we'll have a recommendation to council so we can move forward as soon as spring hits on that building and start getting it renovated so it's ready for next year's season.
And then we had a topic here from 2017 related to tree planting. I don't know how that got into it.
I actually have an update on that. I believe that we had 4 local businesses provide sponsorships for various items that were used. 30 people, I believe, planted 45 trees, I think, in the Kelly Road median. My understanding.
Well, we did 2 different dates of
Okay.
30-something trees each time.
But we also planted 40 trees along Gratiot on both sides the year before.
Oh, with the MDOT grant, right?
And we are working, Joe Marucci is working this year to get another grant to be able to plant some more trees. So if you have ideas for locations for trees, Spindler Park is really pretty full, so maybe there are other locations, and we can always use volunteers.
I have a suggestion, Roxana Park could definitely use some trees now that we're redoing that park.
I agree.
And that was the other thing, the old Roxana School that was demolished way back when. We've applied for and been given CDBG funds to restore some of the playground equipment over there. So we're still looking, we'd like to be sure that we have playground equipment in all of our parks. All right, so our current plan. So perhaps, Randy, do you want to update us on what the school board is doing, or is Mr. McLeod going to do?
Dr. McLeod?
I do get delegated that responsibility often, which is perfectly fine. And what I did, and I have some additional copies for the community that is, if they're interested, but rather than spend a lot of time, I know most of you, or many of you, were at the State of the City, and I kind of gave a summary of some of the great things that are happening in our district. And the theme of what I shared at that point was this idea that if you judge us by where we've been, you're missing a lot of things that have been happening in our district. And we're different today than we were a year ago, 2 years ago, and so on. So our goal is to keep, as I've said numerous times, building the community confidence in our own local school district. And we know we've had, through the deficit and other challenges that we've had as a district, that we've compromised that confidence of the community in our schools. And we believe we are on our way to rebuilding that same confidence. And I shared at the State of the City a number of individuals that are helping us rebuild that confidence. But I also think partnerships like with the city, and we have other partners too with United Way, the Macomb Intermediate School District. Those are the kinds of things that have brought a kind of a reinvestment back into the district. And at the same time, we're really looking simply to stabilize where we're at. So stabilizing enrollment, stabilizing our workforce, also stabilizing our financial picture. Today, we are very excited. The board has approved essentially a refinancing of our bonds, and the sale occurred today. We thought we were going to save the taxpayers of our community about $450,000 over the remaining term of the bonds, and actually it turned out that we are going to save the taxpayers closer to $650,000. So, which is today's dollars, and if you take it out over the term of the bonds and actually figure inflation and everything else, it approaches $1 million worth of taxpayer savings. And so, again, just a way we're trying to be better stewards of taxpayer dollars, and then also, making sure that financially we're in a good spot as a district so that we can keep that stability moving forward. So. I have handed out 3 pieces of literature that we're using to kind of let people know about things that are happening in the district. The first one is about the preschool and our early learning center over on David. That is an expanding program, and it looks like next year we will have another 3 or 4 preschool classrooms that we'll be offering, and our goal is to have a preschool seat for every student that's in the Eastpointe community. So we're excited about the work that's happening there. There's also a flyer that talks a little bit about the work that's happening in our elementaries. And again, I won't read through the whole thing, but you can certainly take a look at that. And then our high school and middle school is also represented in the literature. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I'll keep it at that for this evening.
Mr.
Mr. Sabota? Or did you have a question?
I had a question for him. I know we had talked about it. I think we might have developed or started developing a welcome package for new residents when they come in and do like a homestead exemption. Do you know if these kind of things are included in those?
So we've been working, I know we have sent materials over to the Chamber of Commerce because they were doing something with the real estate, the real estate agents in the area. Is that what is that?
Well, yeah, if we have new residents, I would just want to work with the schools to make sure that they get this information when they move into the community.
Yeah, we also have a plan to work with various property managers in the area too, so that they can also do the same kind of a thing, a welcome to Eastpointe that gives them some information about our schools. So.
Any other questions for Dr. McLeod? All right, Mr. Sabota, would you like to talk about some of our plans, what you're doing? I put you on the spot.
Yes, you did. Especially since what we're doing, we're not really concentrating on Board of Education. I think the biggest concern that we have in the community is public safety. I think that spans both the city and the Board of Education. We have adopted some ordinances in the past few months that we hope will assist both bodies in policing bad behavior. We all know that a child's first teacher and their moral compass begins at home, and no matter what type of ordinances that we pass or what type of rules that the school district passes, if the student doesn't have a good foundation at home, there's nothing that we can do to really correct that. All we can do is react. So I'm hoping that the tools that the city has adopted will allow us, both bodies, to react accordingly and let the circumstances fall as they may. We do have some concerns that we would hope that we could work with the school district in the short term and in the long term to alleviate. I know that the Director of Public Safety has been in conversations with the superintendent with some specific ideas. I don't believe we've had any thing come out of that yet. We may also be asking for the school district to help support specifically a school liaison officer or two. I think that the data demonstrates that we actually do have a need to have a dedicated officer or two to the high school and the middle school. I hope that we would be able to work out some sort of a financial arrangement. I do know that moving on to the parks, I do know that the Parks Commission is doing a very thorough study of the current uses of the facilities, but also they realize that if the city is going to invest money, we have to be sure that whoever is using the facility is not profiting off the taxpayers. So if the city is going to invest money, we're going to be looking for something in return from the users of those facilities to help offset our costs. Yes, this is a community-wide benefit. However, there is in some cases some financial benefit from the users of those facilities. So the city would like to at least have some of our costs reimbursed or have some sort of a revenue-sharing program. And if the needs demonstrate that we don't need the existing facilities, then obviously we're not going to be proceeding along those lines. We'll be most likely having recommendations forwarded to City Council to establish facilities that actually meet the needs that will be identified. So the Parks Commission is doing their job. Like Councilmember Lucido said, we do anticipate a recommendation soon. Will it be within a month or two? And then, of course, it goes to the budget. The city does have about $200,000 of funding set aside for park improvements that is presently undesignated, and this Parks Commission is the body that's going to make that recommendation to the City Council. I think that's all that I really have that really affects the Board of Education.
So, Deputy Chief Kaiser, did you want to say anything at all? Put you on the spot.
Unless you want me to tell something specific.
Where are we at with the school resource officer? Like,
We need funding in person. You want me to find that?
Yes, please.
We are all in favor of having one or more school resource officers. In discussing this issue with the Director of Public Safety, DARE doesn't seem to work, and in his other community, he formulated a program specific to their schools that reached out to all grade levels, not just the 6th grade, which I agree with. We would like to get an officer, at least an office in the high school, which we could do for very low cost, and have him spend part of his time there. One of our current detectives, we can do that, and we would certainly, anytime we can grow the police department and get more officers and more detectives, we are all for it. We've been working very well with the school system, and I'm excited to help in any way that I can.
Anyone have questions? We have board members and others.
So I will just add, because I have been, I mean, from actually the first time we met, that has been a part of our conversation as a school resource officer. I've seen it work very successfully in school districts. Sometimes the challenge is finding the right person, and at the time it actually was finding any person, because there was a challenge with being able to fully staff the police department itself, to where, you know, your ability to be able to essentially, you know, assign somebody to the school district really when they need to take care of the community in general first is a challenge. So We have been in conversation with it. We think we have a source of funding for our half of that partnership. The question really still comes, I guess the question will be what ability the city has to be able to fund their half of or portion of a person. And then the other piece is it really comes down again to, do we have people that you can afford to not have patrolling the streets to be in our schools? And certainly it's a great way to build a relationship between the police department and our students and their families. Again, I've seen it very successfully implemented in other districts, and so I think something, certainly if we can get there, it would be a great addition to our own community.
So Randy, chime in if you, I wanted to go down to student shadowing opportunity. This is something that we've been trying to do for the last couple of years. We were a success at it maybe a couple of years ago. But Michael, this is his charge.
It was tough last year trying to do this. There were a lot of changes in our administration because my thought process was trying to get students not to just shadow us, but to also shadow different department heads, as well as our like director of public safety, finance director, with students that are interested in those particular fields possibly. Now, we have a lot of those positions filled now. We're better positioned to actually do that. I know that I've had conversations with Stephanie Van Herentz at the high school, and I think she referred me to one of your social studies teachers who thought about like maybe extra credit, like getting students involved in that. Years and years ago, it was a joint program between us, and I'd like to try to get back to that, but I think every year what we run into is how do we pick a date, and the same day never works for all of us. I think the county, all over the county, they do it on Government Day. I'm not sure what day that falls on, but maybe tonight we could try to actually just nail down, like, way in advance. Next year, we're going to put this day aside during the school year to do something together for that.
Roseville has a really phenomenal program that they do, but they start much earlier. But I think in the past, going back through a lot of the history books and newspaper clippings for the city of East Detroit, Eastpointe, they tended to do something during Michigan Week, which is usually the third week, I believe, in May. And that's about the time when the schools are finishing up, the seniors are finishing, and it seems like that's a really good time to bring them in. And it takes a lot of preparation on the part of the teachers, but they usually shadow the school board and they shadow the city council at least for a day or whatever. And in the past, they've also gone over to the fire department and the library and so forth. So maybe it would be worth it if we had a couple of school board people and council or somebody to work together with Mr. McLeod and Mr. Sabota and see what we could do to make that happen this year.
I did talk to, I believe it was like the executive assistant or administrative assistant in Roseville. I think that's the person who runs it, but I can't remember her name right now. But I think certainly from our end, we would ask our city manager's office to have someone coordinate. And I know for Stephanie Van Herentz, it's always very difficult during the end of the year with all the senior activities to then try to do this as well, which has been a challenge.
Which is, I think, why she referred you to somebody else, because she knew there was no way she was going to be able to do the end of the year, especially.
Just if I might chime in on this, you had mentioned the third week of May. Looking at our calendar, because I have a senior who's graduating this year, the seniors have something to do almost every day that week. You know, they have
Well, then
their
it couldn't be the
honors
third week of
nights
May.
and barbecue. That's what I'm saying. If it would not be a good week to do that because the seniors are so busy. Ms. Van Herent would be very busy, and you know, to think of a different time frame. That's the only reason I chimed in with it.
And that's why we need to start working on it cohesively with the two different groups, because you're going to have to sit down and look at both calendars as well as what are the activities with both of the, especially with the school, because you're working with the kids. I guess the other thing is, it says in here charity event, but one of the things I think that's been really advantageous for the community as a whole was Cindy Madison setting up with Gleaners. The Gleaners program has done really well. I see Rob over there, Rob Baker, and I think you work, what, every Monday, every Thursday?
Usually every first Thursday, I believe it falls.
But she's recruited a number of volunteers. It's really been a great project, and there's been a tremendous amount of food being distributed, as well as setting it up during the summer months. And she needed a location, so Joe Marucci worked with her for distribution of food over at Kennedy Park. And I think that was on a weekly basis as well.
It was, and actually that was a meet up and eat up, so basically students would meet there, or kids, any kids from birth up to basically 18 years old could show up there. At lunchtime, the truck would pull up and they would distribute meals to all of the kids that are there. And we had one of the best sites as far as attendance. We had a consistently high attendance rate at our meet up and eat up place. So got lots of compliments from Gleaners for that. So.
Well, and Gleaners has to be really happy with all the food you're passing out.
Well, I am sure we have distributed tons of food. I mean, literally tons. I mean, as Mr. Baker can attest, I mean, there is, the sad part is we run out of food every single time before everyone makes it through, and there's always the need is always greater than what we can distribute, but it's still a fantastic way to kind of give back to the community and make sure we're taking care of people who are in need in our community.
So one other thing that I have to mention, especially since you mentioned about the breaking Ron Kramer's record. Every year in August, we have a reunion over at Kennedy Park for all the alumni from East Detroit that graduated from the 40s, 50s, and now we're up to class of 62. And this past year, every person that played with Ron Kramer in 51, 2, or 3 came. And I have never heard people bragging more about going to the high school here and all this stuff. And whatever record was established by that team from 1953, I can guarantee you that it was amplified at least 10 times. But it was really good to be an alumni and to see these alumni come from Tennessee, from the UP, from, of the 5, there were 4 from out of state. And I thought that was really impressive. The furthest alumni that came was from California, and he brought pictures of a senior trip that was on the SS South America where they all got in trouble. But when you see alumni.
That's why we don't do those trips anymore, by the way.
As soon as they got in trouble, they ruled it out. But boy, the stories they can still tell. So I think the spirit of the high school, the spirit of the schools goes a long, long way. These people were all in their 80s or 90s, so they remembered the community and they remembered the schools. So that's what I had. Randy, I'm sure you've got other things.
You're doing great, Mayor Pixley. You're doing great. You're making it easy for me.
This might be the quietest I've ever heard the school board. This is,
Well, we had a rip-roaring edition yesterday for some training, so, we're all a
That's
little
right.
tired.
Yeah, a little slow.
yeah, I kept them out late last night, so.
Us too.
Ryan, can you think of anything we haven't touched base on?
I think we need to set some goals for next year.
Yeah, I will just say, and I complimented the city in the newspaper, but I just want to, with all the snow days that we've had here, they're not all snow, some of them are cold and some of them are ice, but I really want to compliment the city at how quickly you have been able to clear the roads. There were a number of days we were able to have school when some of our neighboring communities were not. And in talking to their superintendents, which, you know, we have a conference call where we have an opportunity to kind of compare conditions. And consistently, Eastpointe and the city of Eastpointe does an amazing job of getting our roads cleared. And I also think that the citizens have done, you know, sidewalks tend to be very well kept and taken care of also with the shoveling there. I know there were a few spots here and there where kids had to make it through, but I just think it's a big compliment to the work of the city and your people to get that taken care of.
Suzanne, if I can chime in for a minute, I'm the one that actually requested to have charity event placed on the agenda. And I just wanted to express an idea that I had. My idea was for maybe like next year, also maybe setting up some sort of event between the schools and the city. Not necessarily even to raise money, but more or less for positive publicity for not only for the schools, but also for the city. Just to get people to come out, have it be a community event, you know, it can be supported by the schools and the city, whether it be between, if our police department be interested, or our fire department, or the school, or the students, or if we want to do something with the school board versus the city council, or something, just like throw out ideas of maybe some sort of like positive event, just to kind of promote what, you know, just us being together. Like, we've been having these meetings the last 3 years, which I really appreciate, and I always look forward to having, because I think keeping the lines of communication open between the city and the schools is really important. So I just think that it would just really show off that, you know, we are working together as a community, and, you know, we're all here together, so.
Well, to bounce off of what she was just saying, a lot of us who have longtime residents of the city remember when we used to have things like the Ox Roast and the different festivals we'd have at Kennedy Park, where a lot of the school organizations were involved. You know, when I went to school here, I remember doing different things there, the dunk tanks and the different things to bring the community out, not just the school. Everybody was there, and if we could find a way for things like that to start again, so people have things to look forward to. I can't remember the last time we had something like that in the city.
Well, we do have the Harvest Fest every year, and we also have Sizzling Summer Nights. I don't know. So one is sponsored by the Lions and the other one by Rare. But the Memorial Day Parade, Sarah's the chairman of that committee. And so the Memorial Day Parade, we're talking about maybe changing the parade route this year.
We're also we're also discussing maybe trying to add some other events at the end of the parade. You know, having more. We right now the Oddfellows do have a picnic, but maybe having some other things for like the kids to do, and just kind of make it a little bit bigger than what it is right now at the end of the parade. Also.
See, that's the big thing. Things for the kids to do. You know, there's not as much as there used to be. And I realize financial situations, and I do realize these festivals you mentioned, Mayor Pixley, but it's not, you know, we want to bring both these organizations together. We want both the schools and the city to work together and bring people into the city and bring people into the schools. These, you know, the Harvest Fest, it's a great festival, but it's not like we all remember when we were kids. I know you've been here a long time, and so have I. And we both can remember how people looked forward to them, and people would come from all over to come to these festivals that we'd have here. And I realize it is a big financial responsibility, but we need to get back to things like that. If we want people to come together, we need to try to get back to stuff like that.
Well, if y'all remember, every year for the last couple of years, the administration has been putting on an event like that, back to school event. And it's been wonderful, and it grew exponentially since last year. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, how about let's put more energy in that event and help city and the administration with that event, because the community really comes to that event, and they have backpacks and games and all kinds of stuff going on at the Kelly Middle School.
The first time we did that, it was here in the city hall, in the main hall.
And so now it's over there, and it was fabulous this year. And so how about if we want to do something, let's add on to something we already have, and it's established, and that'll be wonderful to add those other groups in and bring on the other entities in the city And then that'll make that event even greater, and people will look forward to that every year.
And just to piggyback off of that, maybe we could expand it to the park, like spin the park or something like that, once it grows, because it has grown every year thus far, so I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we have had terrible luck with our back-to-school event because we tend to always pick
Yeah, the
rainy
rainiest day, but
But they still show up.
come.
They
People
do, they still come, that's true.
So, Mr. DeMonico, did you have, I know you always have something to add.
Well, this whole time, I can't get out of my head that I lost with Mr. Duchesne, the free throw competition to Roseville. And
I suggest you start up that free throw competition.
I could continue my tradition of losing. I'll play against Mr. Judkins then or something. And I could be 0-2. All right. There we go. City Council versus School Board. We'll start that up. Everyone, you know.
Yeah, I like that idea.
You play against me.
We did have one event that brought out a lot of attendance, and this was a while back, when Michael Reddy was still police chief. And that was the police and fire that were available. They played a basketball game against the teachers and administration. And we don't have that same gym anymore, but it brought out a lot of people, and it was a lot of competition, and it was really a lot of fun. And the kids played earlier, so you had a little bit there, but it was good because the kids came out with their parents to see the teachers and the police chief. Guess who won? We had a
Sounds
police
like they're
chief
still
that was
alive.
really disgruntled.
That's what I'm saying, something like that I think would be really, really kind of like fun and entertaining, and I think the kids would even enjoy it. Like I said, it doesn't even, even if they're not playing, they'd have come out, have fun watching the kids, the students play, I mean, their teachers play and stuff, so.
I did want to chime in with one thing before I don't know if we're getting close to wrapping up. So right now, Eastpointe doesn't have a communications director or a person dedicated to communications like we used to. Going into budget, I think we're going to be looking at possibly getting a director of community development, or community and economic development. And I think maybe that person will also want to do like advertising and branding for the city. So I just want to throw out there that I think we should be working with your administration, and I know you have a dedicated person to be on like the same, have the same messaging for the community. So just something to throw out there.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I was thinking that maybe there would be some sort of a goal or idea set up for next year. I think administration would really appreciate if we could get serious about getting one. Ideally, I'd like to see 2 school resource officers put in. We're too short right now of being at full staffing. I'm confident that at the end of May, when we believe to have closing of applications, we will have those 2 candidates. And I'm not in a position right now to hire anybody else unless I know that I've got adequate funding. So if the school district is serious I'm going to ask for 2 school resource officers. I can talk to Dr. McLeod about what the costs could potentially be, and if you can find it within your budget, because I know you're coming up on budget preparation as well. If it's in the school district budget, then that tells me I can put it in the city budget, and we'll be able to go that route. I'm confident we'll be able to get full staffing at the police department by the end of this fiscal year. And I think that is actually a goal that both the board and the city council could agree on.
Well, Geneva, did you have more to add?
Come on, Shanice.
She's never quiet.
I
know she's always got something
Oh, you're
else.
telling me? I sit next to her at the board meetings now.
So, and the person right next to you, I'm sorry, I was there when you were sworn in, but I don't remember your, Mr. Roscoe, is that right?
Yes, yes.
So, Mr. Roscoe, what would you like to see in the next year?
I'm still stuck on the event. I was thinking while you guys were talking, I see a city fun run or 5K during the summer.
Somebody did call me,
Outside.
Mr. Stock, you probably know, somebody did call me yesterday, and I asked them maybe to be here today, that they want to do a 5K run to raise money for high school athletic equipment. So they wanted to do a 5K. I suggested they come in and talk to George, as well as Randy Altimus and maybe Mr. Sabota, after they talked to you. And they were talking maybe about doing it before the Memorial Day Parade or before the cruise.
That's feasible. On Stevens, yeah, we have that route taken care of.
You got it all taken care of?
Done many, many times.
I know, but have they been over to approach
Oh,
you?
no, this recently we have not. The last one was the odd.
Yeah, I think
fellows.
Because I think if people knew their goal and where the money was gonna go, back into the school for equipment or whatever, that we would get a big community reaction from it.
Well, you know, the Community Actions Coalition started the process of that, remember?
Yeah, but this is not that group.
No, I'm saying, so I can get all that information, so then you don't have to start over with the process. Because we talked to people about it already, and so I can get that information and bring it to you.
Don't bring it to me.
Well, I mean, whoever is necessary, you know what I'm saying, I can bring it to you.
Or we can discuss it at the next coalition meeting or whatever. But anyway, he was supposed to come over and talk to you.
He hasn't spoken with me.
Okay.
I don't know if he's talked to the director.
Mr. Roscoe, I did not even know you were a runner. This is the things we
I
learn
love
here.
track and field.
This is nice.
But I live on off Stevenson, and that's where I visualize seeing the fun run going. And you can leave it.
Hey, I have a better record for that. I did the Odd Fellows 5K, and I was first in my division out of one. Yeah. Oh yeah, when Macomb turned 200, yeah, did the torch, yeah, with
Yeah, we had
Gail, yeah.
two representatives from the school and two representatives from the city doing the run, so that worked out well.
Yeah.
Cardi ran alongside.
Yeah. Gail Starzinski,
who
who
is-
she was in a different group than me in this 5K I'm talking about, and she
beat you
me.
anyway,
Yes,
didn't she?
yes. And I'm much younger than she is. Yeah.
But that was very nice that we had a teacher and a student from the schools participating in that.
What was the participation like with you were in a 5K in the community?
Yeah,
What was
that one was right before the Gratiot Cruise, and I think there were like, I want to say there were like 50 people that did it.
60.
Yeah, it was-
Yeah, at least it was a lot of
It
people.
was really a good turnout, good participation.
So, I'll do it again. I won't do very well, but I'm happy to run.
I'm sure if I ran, I'd be last in the.
I'll be right next
That's it. I wouldn't be far behind either.
This boot is coming off real soon, so I might be able to run by next year. So, Mr. Williams, what would you like to add?
Well, I like to see I like the fact that the community and the school board is coming together to collectively work together to improve the community as a whole. So I think that's a step in the right direction. I like the basketball tournament, but I mean, it's summertime, and what great time to have baseball. That would be outside. We could utilize our park, showcase one of our parks, have the game, the council against the trustee board. I mean, and we could just whoop y'all and, have like a trophy or something that we pass.
David, don't worry, we'll take care of you. We'll take care
Pass
of you. Don't
back
worry
and
about
forth
it.
every year. No such thing as an indoor baseball diamond. Yeah, you can do that. But yeah, I just like the fact that we're, working together and with one common goal, and that's to build up the community. Because a strong community will definitely bring people in and build up our school system. So that's the goal.
Mr. Ward,
Yes, ma'am.
besides what you said before, do you have some other ideas?
No, just echoing my fellow council people. to get more for us to all do. I agree with, you know, the basketball, the baseball would be a great idea, and the 5K, because I remember how it brought the community together. We could pull something like that together, it would be phenomenal.
Michael?
Is this council reports and?
This is council report. You know,
It's
I'm
fine by
looking for
me.
ideas that you'd like or goals for next year.
I think the one goal I wanted just to like make sure it's clear, or at least make sure everyone's on board, is I think it'd be a good idea to charge administration with working together to find a date for next school year to do the shadow thing, so that we can set it like a year in advance and then, you know, have some time to prepare.
All right, Mr. Albright, did you have anything to add?
With regard to the student shadowing, I don't think it was discussed, but I think it would be good for the students to perhaps even shadow the city prosecutor over at the 38th District Court. We're over there 4 half-days out of the week, Monday afternoons, Tuesday mornings, Wednesday afternoons, and Friday mornings. And I think that would also be a good experience for any of the students that would think about possibly going into either law enforcement or into law. It would be a good experience for them, and I'd be happy. I'm one of 2 of the assistant prosecutors that are over there during the course of the week, so we'd be happy to let them shadow us.
So there is a law day, and I know we usually have some representation up at the county level, but I think our judge would be very willing to have people come over, and I think you've done that in the past because I've seen pictures as well. And Kaiser, did you have anything else to add? We used to have a police open house in May.
Yes, we did.
Did being the operative word in that one.
But wasn't it public safety? So we had police and we brought in the county SWAT team and things like that, but it was over in the back lawn of the police department?
Yes, we are exploring a number of options with that. We spoke with a representative from Beaumont at the Chamber Coffee Hour yesterday, and Beaumont will partially fund a national night out or something of that nature that we could do in one of the parks with police, fire, and maybe some other agencies. That could be a viable option. And beyond that, we had a meeting with the high school, with the Career and Technical Education group, Mr. Roland Bell, who runs their criminal justice program, and we're excited about some options that we discussed with him, getting Eastpointe police officers in the school to talk to the kids and see if we can get some of the kids over to the police department in one capacity or another. It helps them, it helps us, because we can recruit for our police service aide position and then eventually for police officer.
So we have all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, the only other thing I would like to add, I think would be a wonderful goal, would be our literacy efforts in the district right now, which is really our core purpose as a school district, is to educate kids. And so I think the possibility of making a connection around that, as some of these other ideas kind of fit with that, I want to just invite all of you to become a part of our March is Reading Month. And if you don't get a chance, or if you haven't had a chance previously, please come out. We can get you reading to any of our groups in any of our elementaries, and I think some of our middle school also have been participating. But it's a great opportunity to help our literacy efforts in our community.
Bellevue called me today. And I said, I'm willing to come over. And they said, good, how long can you stay? I said, well, just give me a time. So I'm going to be there for 2.5 hours.
That's awesome.
So Monique, we didn't hear from you.
You know, when it comes to the schools, I have a lot of ideas, so we'll be here for a couple hours. But just to give you a few pointers, I'm thinking about the trustee Ward. He was talking about how you want to go back to how Eastpointe used to be. That won't happen until you make connections with the new people that moved in. And I don't think that we're building connections. For instance, that McDonald's down the street, that man has been here 25 years. And I used to work for him when I was 14 years old. And I went to go speak with him. And he said no one has ever talked to him in the city or the school has ever tried to partnership with him. And if you get to know this man, he owns 17 McDonald's throughout Michigan. He always hiring. He does Caribbean festivals. He has done Caribbean festivals in Grosse Pointe for several years, so we can bring that into Eastpointe. He's willing to partner up with the school to give funding, probably for scholarships. No one has asked him. We have the I Fellows that have camps that they send kids to. No one has asked them. We have people like Mimic who came to the State of the City, wants to give dresses, prom dresses to the schools. No one has asked them. So the reason we're not moving forward, because we're not involving the community. So in order to raise the community, we have to involve the community. Sometimes we look for outside sources, but the inside sources have not been asked or included. So once we start doing that, then all those ideas that we talk about from the past and the things that we're trying to move forward will not happen until we involve the people that live here. So those are some of the things I want to say. And tomorrow I'm supposed to be speaking at the school. A couple kids are getting recognized, and I'll be just giving them some motivation, some encouragement, even though they encourage me with the things that they have been doing at the school. Those kids are amazing. So I'll be speaking there from 12:30, I think 12:30 tomorrow. So, so that's just some of my ideas. Hopefully, also brainstorming going next year, some goals would be hiring some of the high school kids. I know we did it in the past to be interns for the city of Eastpointe. I was an intern for the city of Detroit. From 16 to 18, I was hired at 18 years old. So maybe shadowing is good. It's experience, but also having a job, you know, with the city of Eastpointe would be, you know, they have to dress a certain way, teaching them how to dress, teaching them how to speak to the public, how to be professionals for a professional working field level is the start that I had, and I want to see that for the kids. So hopefully moving forward, we can do some internships with the, you know, for the kids at the high school or to work for the city of Eastpointe, even in the summertime, summer jobs or something like that. They do it at a lot of cities. So when they get out of school and they graduate, maybe they can work here permanently because they'll have, you know, experience. Or they can go to another job when they graduate, and on their resume it says their first job was working for a city. So, so like I said, I can go for hours talking about ideas, but we only have a couple minutes. So just moving, the only way we're gonna move forward is to involve new people, those old people who, I mean, the other people that stay here, the old ideas, those are gone. We have to bring new ideas to the city, you know, because it's new people here. So we have to see what their ideas is, brainstorm, come together, bring some of the old ideas with some of the new ideas and come together. But if you don't involve the people who are here, who's been here for years, we're gonna still be here talking about the same ideas. They're not gonna go anywhere. So let's move forward.
Which reminds me, on McDonald's, they took down their Jerry Leninger display that had been there. So we wondered whether it was taken over to the school.
Oh, Madam Mayor, we have it in the garage.
Okay. Good. All right, so you're on.
I'm on? All right. Well, as probably the one person in this room who isn't an employee, who's active in the community, who doesn't actually live in the city of Eastpointe, all these ideas are great, but it's gonna take initiative. It's gonna take somebody to buckle in and get it done. I've said before, I may not live in the city, but anytime, call. I have more than willing to help, because I am part of the community. My taxes go to the school. But I would be more than willing to come and beat anybody at a basketball game.
Outdoor baseball.
Hey, I can hit a baseball. Just don't ask me to run.
Madam Mayor, I just want some
Mr.
clarity.
Roscoe.
Hey, hi. Will there be, or are there any notions of summer jobs for the students this summer?
Oh, our city hires a lot of people on a part-time basis.
Okay, what
during
about
the
Parks
summer.
and Recs and things of that
they,
nature?
they do post those positions.
Parks and Rec, that's not us anymore, that's
I know, but
JJ Mish.
JJ Mish for parks, they hire some, and I believe DPW also hires some part-time.
I'm not aware of that yet.
Okay.
If I can interject, I believe that the library a lot of times hires part-time students.
And the start time and date when they should sign up?
If they go in, they can get an application, then they have to be tested at the library. They have a test date.
Thank you.
But they work around, I mean, if they're in school, they have evening, weekends and, so.
Because a lot of times, the cities open up summer job programs, and the children or the parents go sign up, and they say, oh, sorry, sign up time is over.
I know at the library, there's a lot of the employees there that are full-time employees that came from the schools. They started out part-time, working there, like as a summer job or in the evenings, and now they've worked there, and a lot of them have even moved on to become librarians in different communities. So, yes, the library's a good spot.
So, does the high school still have their co-op program, it used to be a commercial co-op program?
The short answer is yes, it can still exist. The problem is that the Michigan Department of Education and our state has put in such stringent guidelines that we've had some challenges at getting employers to want to agree to the expectations of that. So, for an example, there has to be a curriculum that has to be a part of that actual co-op job. So somebody can't just show up and work for a co-op anymore. They actually have to have a curriculum that the employer agrees to kind of help facilitate in the workplace. So sometimes that has been a challenge because all they want is for the student to work. They don't want to have to also work to have to provide an education to the student as part of that. So that's actually been probably the single biggest challenge we've had with co-ops. Sometimes it's very easy. I mean, there's a direct alignment that is easy to draw between a student's studies in the school system and a job placement, so it's a very easy kind of thing. But the other challenge we've had, and I know we've had some students that were participating with other businesses in the communities, and one of the challenges has been with insurance, where they have to also then agree to have insurance to kind of help cover those students. So it is available. It's just there's two things. One, we don't have a dedicated facilitator to go out and ask everyone who might donate to donate or to work with us. I mean, obviously as we went through the deficit, positions like that just don't exist. That we really went back at that time to kind of our core academic efforts. But the second part is that the state has made it much more stringent. In fact, you might remember in schools, a lot of co-ops actually worked for the schools in those co-op positions, and those, again, don't really exist because of those guidelines and the requirements. So it's available, it's just not used. It's not used currently.
All right, anything else? Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Well, I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn from the city council.
Support.
Move with support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Lucido,
Yes.
Owens.
Yes.
Pixley,
Yes.
DeMonico.
Yes.
And I close the school board special meeting at 7:39.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.